Hi, this is Cherry Davis, and I'm talking with Nanea Taylor, who is one of our mentors from Start with 8 Hollywood with Women of Color United. Hello, Nanea. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Hi, Cherry. I'm so excited to do this. This is great.
It is so wonderful. Women of Color United has done so much with Start with 8 Hollywood, and I'm so excited that Script Magazine is giving me the opportunity to speak with some of the past and current mentees about the program.
Yeah, I was in part of the first rollout, I believe, of Start with 8.
So I'd love to ask you, what was the inspiration for pursuing your Hollywood dreams?
Whew, oh, Lord. Okay, so I never even considered myself a writer until I hit like my 30s, and I had to have a friend tell me I was a writer. So I started writing, like, I guess back in the day, you would call this fan fiction at 7 or 8 years old. I tell the story all the time, but me and my sister were latchkey kids. And so we would come home, whoever got to the TV set first, to the remote control first, got control of the TV until our mom got home. Okay. So every now and then I would beat my sister to the TV. And she loved watching cartoons. Like she loved watching Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So you had the Flintstones, the Jetsons. And I was just like, and she's older than me now. I would just be like, oh my God, we're watching these kitty cartoons. And so whenever I would get the remote, I would just try to find something else that was a little bit more mature, like the Transformers and like and stuff. And so one day I'm turning the channels and I can't find anything, and it lands on this beautiful Black woman's face, and I was like, who's that? That she looks like me. Who is this? And it was Uhura. It was a Star Trek episode, and I was like, I gotta watch this. There's someone who looks like me on here, and she's not a maid. She's not a prostitute. She had a nice little role from the I can't remember the first episode I saw. All I remember is that when I turned the channel, it was right up on her face, and I was like, who's that? And so I started watching Star Trek from that moment on. I mean, they had at that time it'd be back to back episodes. So if my sister did get the remote before me, when my mom got home, it would have one more episode, and I would beg my mother, like, please, mom, let me just watch this episode, please, please, please. And she would always let me watch it. And so I would watch every episode because it was reruns at the time. And I would go because I realized that even though they had a Black female character, everyone else got a chance to sit in the captain's chair. She never got a chance to sit in the captain's chair. So I would go in my little Barbie diary and rewrite the episode or a scene for her to be in the captain's chair, and she saves the day. And J.J. Abrams owes me money because I wrote her and Spock together when I was 7 years old. Okay, said that. Okay, I wrote them together. So somebody read my little handy dandy Barbie note journal. Journal, and they said that's a good idea, and we're gonna take that idea. So JJ, we need to talk. But yeah, so I started writing there, and then I started branching off and writing little stories here and there. And I would tell my friends the stories. Like they were like, "Hey, you got a story?" Because I would just tell them a story. Say, "Oh, I had this story idea," and I would tell them a story, and they were like, "That's great." And so it just built from there. I would always tell my friends stories when we would do like long road trips. I would tell stories that I had made up until I'm hoarse till we get to the place where we're going. And I would write little short stories, but I just kept them to myself. So one day I was visiting a friend in Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, and she took me to a screenwriters event because they have a small screenwriting community there, in the film community there in Augusta, Georgia. And so she had taken me to an event. And so while we're at the event, she's introducing me as a writer. And she's like, oh, let me introduce you to my friend who's a writer. So I had to pull her to the side. I'm like, why are you telling these people I'm a writer? I don't write anything. And she's like, yes, you do. You always write. You're always telling me stories. What are you talking about? You're a writer. She said, didn't you write your story? And I was like, yeah. She said, you're a writer. Now go somewhere. Go enjoy yourself. So while I was there, to make this long story shorter, as I was there, I met a gentleman, another screenwriter, and he was like, hey, I have this idea for Thundercats. Remember I said it was a mature cartoon, then the Flintstones. And so I used to love the Thundercats, you know. So he was like, yeah, I want to write a real live film for the Thundercats. And I was like, so he was like, you want to pair up and do it together? I was like, sure. So we talked and he gave me his ideas and we wrote out the outline for the first act of the film. And I got to working on the script. Went and got, you know, writing scripts for dummies. What is it? Cat, what is that book? Script writing book. I forgot the name of it now. And then read everything I could get my hands on and learn how to write a script. Never written a script ever in my whole entire life. And I started on the first act, and my partner disappeared. Like I couldn't get a hold of him. And so I had the first act, I had sent it to him. I never heard back from him. And finally, like a month or two later, after I did the first act, he reached out to me and said that he had heard that a studio had already bought the IP rights and already had a script in place, and that basically we had wasted this time of writing. But by this time, I was like, oh, all right. So I put the script to the side, and but by this time I had this is when the Harvey Weinstein stuff had broken. And I don't know if you remember that Lupita Nyong'o was one of his victims, but for some reason her story wasn't getting any play, really, as much as everyone else's story had gotten played. No one really spoke about the fact that she had been put in a precarious situation with him too. And at the same time, I was researching the real life story of Recy Taylor. Do not ask me how this was coinciding, but somehow this happened all at the same time. And I don't know if you know the real life story of Recy Taylor back in the probably 1950s, if it wasn't the 1940s or whatever. She and her friend were walking home from church, and several white guys grabbed Recy and took her away, and they raped her. And the friend ran home to Reese's family to tell them that she had got kidnapped by these guys. Her father had called the police. And by the time the police get to their house, the guys come up and throw Reese out of the truck and ride off, right? So there were court cases. Rosa Parks came down and everything and tried to give her influence over the court cases and trying to get Reese. I think they had 3 court cases. And even though one of the guys admitted that he was like, we raped her, all 3 court cases got thrown out. They got acquitted every time. And she had to leave the town that she was in. I think it's Alabama somewhere. I may be wrong about this. I think it was in Alabama, but anyone can look this up. It's a documentary on Netflix, Recy Taylor. And she had to move away. She got divorced from her husband, all because of this rape. And of course, like I said, she had about 2 or 3 court cases where they kept throwing it out, even though one of the men admitted to that it was rape. And because she was a Black woman, you know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter what happened to her, is because she's a Black woman. And they kept throwing it out. And she didn't get justice for it until after she died. When she died, the documentary came out. She died, and then the state that she was in, they finally noted that they did wrong by her, and she was already dead. And I was just like, and then you know, the Harvey Weinstein thing happened, and I'm looking at it, and I was like, it's horrible for all the women, but here again, here's a Black woman, it happened to her too, but everyone's kind of brushing over it. And I was like, why don't we have what would happen today if that had happened to Reese today? Like, how would things be a little bit different for her? Because her father couldn't help her. You know, Black men couldn't help Reese back then. They would have died, you know. So what would happen? What would she do? And I know me in my brain, I'm just like, I would hurt somebody if they raped me. I would physically, I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to get, you know, justice from, I probably would do something crazy, because I'm just like, you're not going to hurt me and mine and think you're going to walk away free. So I was like, how would that happen today? And I'm thinking in my brain of what I would do. And I took that story and I wrote Mantis. It's about a Black female vigilante who saves our steps in and helps women and children who don't get justice from the criminal justice system. And she goes off her own vigilantism, and she, you know, she's almost kind of, I call her the Black female Joker, because she's crazy. She's a little crazy. You have to be a little crazy. She deals with her own PTSD of what has happened to her, and she has no qualms about stepping in the middle of something and killing everybody. And so I created this series, this limited series. The first script I did after Thundercats was called Mantis, and it's about that Black female vigilante. And when I first wrote it, I got onto Twitter, and the Twitter writing community, somebody had told me like, oh, Twitter's writing community is the best community to be on. Screenwriting community is the best. And I have found it to be so. I found so many friends on there, support system on there. And the Soul Start with A was off of Twitter. And so I got on there, and again, this is my second ever script I've ever written. And I asked others, could I read their scripts? And they, in response of reading theirs and giving them feedback, they were like, "Can we read yours?" And I gave it. And I was like, "Okay, here you go." And they were like, "Yeah, you need work, and these are the things that we think you can improve on." And I improved so immensely for just them giving critique and helping me become a better writer, that the dang thing actually was winning awards, you know, started winning awards. And I was like, wow, you know, from that. And again, Twitter, going on Twitter and meeting so many people on there, becoming, building relationships in the screenwriting community on Twitter, also led to the Start with 8 Hollywood mentorship program. Because I happen to follow a couple ladies on there, and my writing partner now, she had a big hand in starting the Start with 8 mentorship program, and that stuck me John. I'm gonna mess up her last name, but she was one of the co-creators of Starting with 8, and just being in a friendship on Twitter of just saying, hey, me and her were talking the background on DMs and check on each other and see how we're doing. And both of our ideas are to try to help and change the society of Hollywood, of the closed door to diversity, you know. And she was dead serious about this. Like, she's like, we got to change it. And so I didn't know she was working on this program, when one day she reached out to me and she was just like, hey, we got a Start with 8 program, mentee program going on, and would you like to be a part of it as one of the first ones to be mentored by Hollywood professionals? And I was like, yeah, sure, you know, definitely, you know, please include me into this this great program. And so I was on the list as one of the first rollouts.
That is fascinating, because technology is really making the world a little bit smaller. And that's really allowed someone who is not necessarily in New York or LA to have a lot more interactions. So Twitter is such a glue for the community.
It really is. And I try to tell all my other screenwriter friends that I know, I'm like, listen, I know that it's hard with social media. I'm an introvert. I have social anxiety. I'll have social anxiety about anything. And it was hard for me to put myself out there and follow people and keep the communication going on Twitter, because that's really what you have to do. You have to keep the communication going, because you don't know who you know. And it's really about truly networking and supporting other writers and building that community and that safe space. And so Twitter is really great for that. And again, I made friendships with people that I had no idea that who they really were. Like, I had no idea Taupe was the bitch list. Like, I didn't know that when I was online. I thought she was just another writer. And I was just like, oh, she's just another writer like me. And so we would just DM each other. I had no idea until one day 6 months or 8 months later, she was like, oh, the bitch list, da, da, da. And I'm looking, I was like, that's Taupe's. And I go in her DM and say, are you the bitch list? And she was just like, yes. Oh, I am. I was like, I had no idea who you were. But in that, I was like, I'm never going to apply to the bitch list, because that's our friendship. I never wanted her to ever think that I was using her for anything more than just being her friend. And that's another thing people need to learn, is like, just be friends with folk without wanting anything from them. And if you see opportunities that can benefit them, recommend them for those opportunities. and don't be selfish, because there is enough space, enough room. I know Hollywood tells us there's not enough space and room for diverse writers and diversity, but it is. It's enough space, it's enough room for everyone, and you can always reach back and pull someone up with you, or someone look to the side of you for help and or to help that person up. And Start with 8 is one of the best tools that I wish Hollywood would know more about, because it has so much diversity, so much talent in the pool. They have this Start with 8 program. They have a pool of people that is no way that Hollywood can say, well, we don't know where we can find an editor. We don't know where we can find a diverse director. We don't know where we can find a diverse actress. It's a lie. Start with 8 has that. And Hollywood has one place and they can actually go in and see who they have. And pull from there. They can pull from the group of people that Start with 8 has done. And that's one of the things I'm very, very, very proud of being a part of, because they make sure to reach out, give us any opportunities that they see they have coming. They continually open their doors to bring in new diverse talent into their pool of people. It is amazing what they have done. And this is without them having any advertisement, anyone helping them. This is without anyone helping them. And they do this by the grit of on their own. And it's such a great, and I can't talk about it anymore of how fantastic this program is for people. I have met with Javier Grillo, and he's a producer, showrunner. He did Lost. He did good grief.
The Dark Crystal.
The Dark Crystal. He's won Emmys for Lost and Dark Crystal. I think he's working on Cowboy Bebop right now, which I'm excited about. Like, I was
God, I love that show.
So just hearing him when we were talking, this man, Javi, is just the best. Okay, I can't even speak about it, how great he is. Like, I want him to give a master class. Like, I really I was sitting there just like, I don't think I was writing fast enough. The notes, the little tidbits of gems of notes that he was giving me, he was like, you need to read constantly. He said, you need to read the newspaper, you need to read books, you need to read everything to keep that creative juice going, because you never know what's going to make you go, that'll be a great story. Of him being Puerto Rican in this industry, how he decided, sometimes he has to carry his birth certificate around, and how he would just show it and be like, I am Puerto Rican, because he's passing. And so people would not believe that he was, Puerto Rican. And then I did a meetup with Skybound, and that was from the creator of The Walking Dead. What is his name? The comic book, Skybound. Oh goodness, those guys were really, really great guys to talk to. Skybound protection from The Walking Dead was created by, I'm gonna have to give you a name later because I can't remember his name right now. But he has created a Skybound entertainment industry that has, at first, is doing comic books, which you got to look at their comic books. They have some really, really great comic books. But then they done Skybound Galactic, which is an entertainment TV series that they're going into. So I spoke to two of the guys from Skybound. One is an editor, and I think one is heading up the Galactic TV area, entertainment area. And they asked to read my scripts. They asked us to, kind of send them any ideas for comic book series. So it was great talking to them. Every single one, Rebecca Cutter, who did The Mentalist, she's now the showrunner of television series Hightown. And let me tell you, like, she is like one of my favorite ones. Like, she is so, she read my script. She sent back notes. She has kept in contact with me, during this whole thing. I didn't, and I'm just going to be honest, at the beginning of Start With A, I didn't know that they were our mentors. I just thought, oh, this is a quick like talk or whatever. And someone had posted something on Twitter, and I was like, they were like, oh, Rebecca is, Taylor's mentor. And I had to correct them. I was like, wait now, she didn't say nothing about, I was like, wait, hold up. She didn't say that she was my mentor, because I didn't want her to think that that's what I've been going around telling people, that she's my mentor. And she hasn't said that's what she is. And she came back in the Twitter because they had, tagged her. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I am your mentor. Can I be your mentor? And I was like, I just didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume that, I didn't want to go out there and say she says she's my mentor. We hadn't had the discussion. We had just talked, so she's been great. She's been busy herself, like I said, being a showrunner for her new show, Hightown. But as for even, you see, I just sent her an email today just to say, hey, would you mind giving a quote? And she's like, sure, send her right on over to me. And that's how she is. She is great like that. And I was really, truly blessed with the four people that starting with 8 connected me with, because I walked away actually knowing I do truly believe I can reach out to any one of them at any time to ask any questions. And I think I would get a response from any one of them. And that in itself, even though I don't want to overstep my the rope or the help that they've offered to give. So I try not to be this person who's always in there, emailing them or saying anything to them, but they have made me feel comfortable enough. So when you ask for a quote, it made me say, well, I can send them an email. I don't have a problem. Any other time I'll be like, oh, I don't want to bother them, but I know enough that I can send an email to them and say, hey, do you have a second? Do you mind? And I think all of them would be like, oh yeah, let's see if we have some time to set up for you. Because I think they truly in their hearts, all four of them really saw that there was a critical issue with diversity in writers' rooms. And they want to do their best to help, if anything, if not anything else, mentor people who would not have this kind of connection in Hollywood if we weren't physically in Los Angeles, or we didn't have an agent. So a lot of people would start with 8. They don't have agents. They don't have managers. They're new to this industry. It's a confusing industry, especially me. I'm here in North Carolina. I don't know how Hollywood works, so just to have someone I can reach out to and say, hey, I just got, someone just asked me for my script. What steps should I take? Is great, is fantastic. Someone just sent me a contract. What would you suggest I do first? It's great to have someone who's in the industry, who has knowledge, who can say, yay, or I got a second to talk to you, to kind of walk you through that. Start with 8 has been, I don't even have the words to express how grateful I am to them for the opportunity that they gave me, but 2, also seeing that they're still trying hard to make sure that especially women of color have an opportunity to get in the door. And when I tell you, they fight for us all the time. And I want to make sure I get so nervous on these things that I'm forgetting people's names. And I'm just like, God, I should have wrote down my people's names, but I want to get one person's name here to tell you about, who's with Start With 8. And she's along with Taupe. Is 2 other women who's with Taupe. So there's Cheryl Betford and Menon Reaper with the Start With 8 program. So it's Taupe, Cheryl, and Menon, and maybe another person, and I truly apologize from the top of my heart if I missed your name, but these 3 women are on it. When I say they fight for us, they fight for us, and they're doing it without any backing. I saw that at one point I saw that Ava DuVernay was going to do her own Women of Color program similar to Start With 8, and I was like, I even said, we already got that. Just you start with A. Like it's they've already started this process. They already did this, use their tools. But they definitely need the backup of commerciality. They need the advertisement. They need the backers. They need the funding, because they're doing this on their own. They're doing this on their own. And even though they're having major support from a lot of high people, actors, producers, believe me, they're getting it. Like, they're getting these people who are stepping in, because these people truly want to help, but they also need people who are not just in it just to say, hey, I've attached my name to something that's diverse, so I've checked off that box, and then they're doing it on a performance basis. They need people who are actually working with the mentees that they've assigned them with to help them navigate the industry. Like I said, I know that for my mentees, I can reach out to them and say, hey, you got a second to ask questions, but they also need ones for across the board for all the mentees, and not just doing it as a performative base. And I think Cheryl ain't gonna deal with that. Like, I really just gonna say, Cheryl will, if Cheryl finds out anyone's doing a performative base, that's not her thing. She's not gonna allow someone coming here just to be performative. You actually have to do the work with your mentees. This is not a check off button thing to say, hey, I'm signed on to be just to say I did this diversity thing. No, you're going to help these women, and I think that Cheryl's her baby of that, because she wants to make sure that the door stays cracked open enough so we can get in there with the support that they can provide. She's not telling you to sign someone. She's not saying that. She's like, but be there really truly to be a mentor to them. And I think she makes sure that that they have been vetted. The mentors have been vetted enough to make sure they understand that, and that's what they're going into with their mentees. There have been success stories where other mentors have helped their mentees get, management or agent, or their scripts read by development firms or whatever, and that has been phenomenal, and that's great across the board, and that's how well. And how I believe that they want to see that level of support from people who are already in the door, in the room. And that is fantastic. But the success these women are having should be even more supported across the board from everyone in Hollywood, because now they can't say it's no place for them to find anyone.
One of the great things about the Start with 8 Hollywood mentorship program is that there's no fee, which is a detriment for a lot of women of color that can't afford to pay these fees, as well as the sheer number of mentees they have. I've seen quite a few where they'll have 5 mentees and they'll have who knows how many people apply. It's very much making a lot of people have contacts that normally don't have the family connections or didn't go to school with the right people. So working with your mentors, you were saying that that you were able to reach out to them, that they had I assume you probably did Zoom meetings or something, since you're not in LA. How did your process mentorship program go with Rebecca Cutter or Javier Grillo Marsash and John Moyson and Rick Jacobs?
So the meetings were set up by their personal staff, and they set up the Zoom meetings. Start with 8 assigned us mentees. They gave us a list and said, pick off who you would like to be a mentor. And I picked off, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. And then they set you up with whoever. And then they say, okay, you're set up with your people, and you should hear from them. And their personal assistants reached out and say, what time would you like to meet? You set that up. They send a Zoom meeting, and you made it to the Zoom meeting, and you're talking to these amazing people. I would say about 30 minutes to an hour on some. I think me and Javi went over about an hour talking. Same thing with the Skybound guys and Rebecca and I. Also, I think ours was actually, because she had a meeting right behind mine, was 30 minutes. And it was just kind of talking about yourself, finding out about them finding out about your writing career, your life. It was no pitching. It was just basically kind of getting to know each other. And after each one, they were like, here's our personal contact information. Please reach out if you have any questions. Rebecca offered to, like I said, Rebecca and Skybound guys offered to read our scripts, or any writing samples that we had. Javi was in the midst of bebop. I think he was in the midst of Cowboy Bebop at the time. And he admitted that he didn't really have the bandwidth to read anything. But he was always open for any questions or anything about the industry that I may have from him. And like I said, he was dropping like gems of how to be a writer and how to be creative and where to, just how to be in the community. The man, like I said, he just blew my mind. And I was just like, this guy is one guy I would love to be in a room with one day, just learning as much as I possibly can from him. And he was just very generous with stating that, just reach out to me if you have any questions. And then Skybound guys, I listened to The Walking Dead was my jam. You couldn't tell me nothing about Rick and Michelle and Rashone and all those the Walking Dead people will know when I say Rashone, they know who I'm talking about. Like, you can tell me anything. Okay. All right. So The Walking Dead, just to even find out that, I'm going to have a talk with these people. And I'm not even I'm gonna admit, I was like, okay, so when is the Walking Dead movie coming out where we find out what happened to Rick? That was one of my first questions to them. And they were like, listen, COVID has slowed down everything, but it's gonna happen. And I was just like, okay. And then to find out they had comic books, and I'm a comic book nerd too. And when I tell you the comic books that they have, like, I can't even, like, listen, people, you all need to go to Skybound and look at the comic books that they have. They have a diverse group of comic books that, honey, I was like, listen, that was my second dream of being a comic book writer. And that's still a dream of mine, and it will happen. So I'm just going to claim it and proclaim it in this one, that one day I'm going to have my own comic book also. But they're saying too that they've also are looking for TV series too, because they're going into that industry with Skybound Galactic. Those guys were so nice. It was like talking to, you're just sitting at lunch talking to someone, just, having a general conversation. And I kept in contact with them, just telling them some of my accomplishments as a writer, and they've been very encouraging. And then getting to Rebecca, like, Rebecca was just like talking to someone you already knew, like, just like, hey, Rebecca, how you doing? Like, she's been very, very sweet and very, very supportive. And to find out that she was with The Mentalist, I
love that show.
I was so like, why did it end? Like, I was still sitting here like, how did that end? Like, I don't understand how that ended. Like, why? I was like, I feel like they need to reboot it. Like, it needs to be rebooted. He needs to be somewhere else. Like, he's retired, and it's a case that comes up, and they're like, you were the mentalist. You need to come back and solve this mystery and start it all over again. I just feel like that. So, but she's working on Hightown on Stars now as the showrunner. So she's been kind of busy doing that. But I expressed my love for The Mentalist with her. It was just like, I love The Mentalist. But I think Hightown had just came out at a time of when we were talking. And so, but like I said, she's a showrunner now. So that's how the quality of people that start with 8 get you started with. I'm talking to Javi, a 2 Emmy award winning producer writer. Okay, I'm talking to Skybound, who is popular comic book series, to now they're opening up their own TV entertainment, separate entertainment industry from that. And here's Rebecca Cutter, and I'm talking to her, and she's a showrunner. That's the type of quality of mentors that start with 8, they try to, connect us people who, again, like you stated, we don't have any connections. We don't have the monetary acumen to be over in California to get into doors like this. And Start with 8 makes it where you don't have to pay a fee. You don't have to write an essay. You ain't got to, give up your first born child. You don't have to give your liver, your kidney. You have to just be a writer who is out here doing it, still putting in the hard work, the hard labor. They see you. And they notice that you are out here hustling and working as hard as you can. And they see that you have talent, and let's connect you.
Now, I'm very curious about, can you give one example of advice that they've given that you have used moving forward with your writing?
Well, Javi was like, you need to read everything. See, I'm not a news person, right? So I don't really like watching news, reading news, because it's depressing. Majority of the time it is depressing. So when he said that, I was like, yeah, I probably am missing kind of storylines that can pop into my head from watching news. And I was watching this news article. I was like, oh God, I'm not seeing anything on here that's gonna, that influence a story for me. Until I saw this the local news source about this guy who had this is funny. This guy who had been hiding in a closet to get pictures, and the police were called because he was found in a closet, and he was a detective.
Oh.
He was a detective sent there by the wife to catch the husband cheating, but she didn't never tell him to go into the house, but he had gotten in the house and got into the closet so he could catch the husband, get better pictures of the husband cheating on the wife. But the husband or the girlfriend or the mistress heard something in the closet. So they called the police, and it was the wife's detective. And I was like, I can use that on something.
That is crazy. I mean, that is crazy. That I do vaguely remember hearing about that. And I was like, if you don't trust them, just go on and leave. It doesn't matter whether you have to leave.
You can set up your own cameras in the house.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I am also very excited about is I've spoken to a couple of other previous mentees, and they were saying that they've had so many opportunities just from this mentorship program. Excuse me. They've had so many other mentorship, so many opportunities just from participating. Have you been really taking advantage of working with them to further your path on to Hollywood?
Well, I have joined Taupe. We with this, with the mentorship. Me and Taupe, we were friends before that. So she had reached out to me to help her co-write a script, and we did a horror script together. And we've gotten a lot of attention with the script. Knock on wood, keeping our fingers crossed.
Knock on wood.
That some more attention will be brought from that. But we also, with Taupe, have another mentor. I didn't know if I should talk about her because I know we're talking about the first mentorship. So we're also being, I also have a fourth mentorship with Taupe. So it's not outside of her, just my own. With Bea, hold on, Bea. Let's see if I have her full name here. Bea Sakiria from Boomhouse. And
oh wow, that is huge.
So she's mentoring both me and Taupe at this time, and it's just mentorship at this time. And she's asked to read our script, our horror script. So we're meeting with her next month, the beginning of next month, to talk about our horror script and see what kind of tips or suggestions that she has to either improve in, and what things that we should take from her. Like, and when she opened up our mentorship call, basically saying this, she was like, I'm not here just to check the bottom line. I'm here to see how I can help you both. And that is what Start With 8 is. It's like, how can I help you guys get in this industry or make your mark in this industry? How can I do that? So when I say the Start With 8 has the gems that they drop, the wisdom that they drop with us, and the fact that, like I said, if I have any questions regarding the opportunities that have come my way, and it's a lot of little opportunities that have come my way, from just being with the Start with 8 situation regarding my writing. One is, the support of the group. Like I said, when you're with Start with 8, they're always sending out any opportunities that they have, they send it to their mentees. They're actively looking for any activities or any opportunities that they can pass along to their mentees. I see a lot of us applying for stuff that they send along. Like I said, they do not play. Cheryl does not play about her mentees. She's very protective of us. She puts in a lot of hard work. All of them do. But I know that they're very protective of us mentees, and they do their best to get opportunities for us. And like I said, for my mentors, I'm just grateful that they're all there for any issues that are any questions I may have, because they have been some opportunities and doors that I'm just like, should I slide in this door or not? Or the door opens and there's questions and I don't know how to answer them. So there has been that opportunity to go back to them and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? So just that alone, just to have people who are in the industry who can help you navigate this industry is fantastic. And they're really, truly, their heart is to help you.
It is a wonderful program. I am so happy that you took the time to speak with me about your experience with Start with 8 Hollywood, as well as Women of Color Unite. It is a program that is really helping to, I feel like it's helping to knock down doors, break that glass ceiling, and just give us the opportunity to tell our own stories and to see ourselves reflected.
I can't wait to be on that stage one day and say, I want to, congratulate Start with 8 and Women of Color Unite, because they are opening doors. They are trying to get that door open, and they're trying to keep their foot there so it doesn't close and everyone else can get into. So I'm just proud to be one of their mentees. I'm proud I was part of the first rollout circle of them doing it. I am so proud of all the creators who created it and spent so much time, their money, again, their own money out of their own pockets to try to keep this going. I'm hoping that the industry sees it and they use it and they back them and they fund them so they can keep this going, because they're doing it with their own heart, their own will, and their own will and their own money. So it can remain free for women like me who don't have I'm not there and I don't have the money to be paying high membership rates. So I just really truly appreciate them for allowing someone like me to be a part of the great thing of Women of Color Unite and Start with 8 program.
It's a great program, and it must give you such a confidence boost to keep pushing forward. Thank you again for speaking with me, Nanea. I look forward to hopefully seeing your horror film in the near future, streaming on one of the many services that we have that need content, and that we need content from women of color. So thank you.
Thank you, Terry.